Hi there guys, Shaun here from 5 Star Marine. This is Jay with me. Not a news story today, not a boat story today, but we're going to do a bit of a summary of what's been happening with our community work in 2021. That's today. If you'd like to know what happened in 2020, jump on YouTube. There's one of our 2020 recap videos.
They're probably already on YouTube, to be fair. You can just look back down the list of videos.
And see, this is why I bring you in, because you know better than I do this stuff.
I'm here to help, Shaun. I'm here to help.
So 2021, we're talking in this period of time about 410,000 life bags that were delivered into the community.
410,000.
Yes, in 2021. I know that because I'm doing my end of year reporting and looking at all of the statistics of where we spent money, and I should have actually bought macro by now. It would have been cheaper.
If you don't know, macros are cash and carry here in Thailand. Other cash and carries are available.
So what the interesting thing is, Jay, as I was looking at it, I was actually looking through all of the photos because we document what we do, and I have a whole drive of the photos. And this whole project started off in a spare room in one of my houses with just three to five of us packing. And most of the time we'd pack until midnight, and then the next day Nando and I would get up and deliver, and off we would go. That's where we started, but where we ended up in 2021 was in a gym with 50, 60, 70 people packing pods all over Phuket, and we'll get into what those are as we go through. So I thought the best way to do this was just to kind of look at some of the milestones. So as I was looking through all the photos and video footage, I just looked at some of the dates and saying, well, that was a milestone for us to evolve the program. And I think, I want to start off by saying this program never was designed to be where it was. We just thought, let's help some people, and it evolved and evolved and evolved, and we just kind of went with it. It wasn't like we started at the start and said, hey, we want to go and feed 410,000 people with life bags. That's not where we started. It was like, let's help those who we can, and it just grew from there. So what I wanted to start was the first date in January 30th, 2021. This is the first time that we ever did a big group pack. So we put out there on Facebook that we needed some volunteers. We ordered suppliers to do 1,000 life bags, and that was a big number back then. In a day, 1,000 was a big number. Nando, me, Amy, and my wife, and some of our kids, we would pack together, and 300 bags in an entire day. That was a huge thing for us.
When you say what is in the life bag?
So a life bag, we're looking at, it's evolved a little bit, but the end result of a life bag is 2 kilograms of rice, 5 packs of mama noodles, a cooking oil, a flavor oil, maybe like a soya sauce or a meji or a fish sauce, mackerel tins, and then something extra. And the something extra is just basically what the community needs, but is also in ample supply at a discount from the supplier we're buying from. That's what the life bag looks like right now. And if the question is, are we still doing it? To today, right now, we're actually back to last year's numbers. I think this week we'll end up putting 3,000 to 5,000 life bags out because that's what's needed this week. So anyway, back to January 30th. We did a big group pack at Sutai, and the images are going to be showing up now. We had about 80 volunteers there, and we were blown away because we packed 1,000 bags in 2 to 3 hours. And that's a huge thing. Like Nando and I were like blown away because we were doing 300 bags in an entire 10-hour packing session.
It was almost like a factory putting things together. You was almost sitting there, and it was like a conveyor belt. And can I just say, on the rice thing, it's not just putting 2 kilos of rice in a pack, because rice doesn't come in 2 kilos packs. It comes in massive bags.
We pack it down.
So the first thing you have to do is to separate the rice into smaller packs. So it does all take time. That's impressive.
Yeah, and that was the start of our weekly Saturday Sutai pack.
And I was there, although I might not have been packing.
No, but you were there actually asking people through videos to come and help us.
I was, and annoying people.
Yeah. And then from there, let's move on. We had March 1st was when we launched our first what we call packing pod. So in March, case numbers started to get bigger, and so these big packs that we're doing at Sutai on every Saturday or every Sunday, we had to start to limit the packs in size. But also in March, we increased the amount of food we were giving out. So in January, we were looking at 1,000 bags a week being a good number. by March, we're talking 3,000 to 5,000 bags a week as being a good number. And so we set up this concept of packing pods where we would deliver the supplies to communities. So for example, UWCT Thailand, BISP, KIS, Layan Gardens, all these groups of local volunteers who would then pack in their house or at their school, and then we would send trucks and go pick it up, and then we'd go out and distribute it. So the first one of those was March 1st at UWCT, where they used all the students' boarding and all the schools' resources to pack for us. That was the start of packing pods, which I don't know where these names came from. Like pre-COVID, I didn't know anything about a life bag. I didn't know anything about a packing pod or a group pack, and these are all terms I suppose we've coined as we've kind of got this program along.
Packing pod sounds fun.
Yes. So then March 8th is another milestone. This is when the media started to turn their attention to migrant worker camps, where they started to say these migrant worker camps are getting isolated on site, no government support, no way they can go home, ordered to stay in place for 30 days. Media turned their attention to this, and this started to bring to light the migrant worker crisis that we've had here in Phuket. And you can actually find some of those YouTube videos online. We did some stuff there with Tim from the Tiger, where he would show some of the communities that were literally locked on site. Then the worst case, they weren't fed, but they were forced to work, because a lot of these migrant camps, they're living on site of the place that they're building, and so they're forced that they can't leave. They're reduced to, in some cases getting paid 50 to 100 baht a day, and that's nothing. You can't survive on that here, because most of the migrant workers have got family with them as well. So it's the dad that's working, the mum that's working, and the kids are being looked after by the community grandma. And so this became a problem in March. Then rolling forward, next thing, and you've met them as well, and you'll see them a lot in some of the footage that we're going to show, is by April we moved to full-time volunteer coordinators. Peter and Nina, who ran all of our packs for us.
Good guys.
So they would come to the gym on a Thursday and receive the delivery of all the supplies. They'd order it, they'd store it. Then on a Saturday, they'd go early before everybody else, set up the packing lines. As you said, it was a conveyor belt. Then they would order the pack, tell us how many packs were there. Sunday, they'd help load up, and then off we go and deliver. And
they were very efficient, and they got everything going in the right way.
Pete's an engineer.
Absolutely.
So he had the whole system. He had a spreadsheet that could tell me how long it would take to pack a bag, how much the bag weighed, and we had this whole system which allowed us, actually, I don't think Pete even realized this, it allowed us to go from 1,000 bags a pack to 2,000 bags a pack to, as you'll see in a moment, 5,000 bags a pack, 8,000 bags a pack, based on his entire process. I know this all sounds very technical, but I suppose what we're trying to give you is a little bit of a behind the scenes, so you can see it's not kind of, we buy some stuff, put it in a room, and it just magically packs itself.
No, that's for sure. It doesn't happen like that.
No, and it doesn't happen without Pete and Nina, because without Pete and Nina, we wouldn't have been able to manage 5-star, we wouldn't have been able to manage the village relationships, and having them allowed me to take my focus off supply and pack and focus on who to help.
Well, you need systems to be put into place so that it drives it forward, which you did.
Correct.
Pete and
Nina.
Nina.
Yep, amazing. Then April 8th, this is a kind of a personal milestone. This is not something that as a volunteer community would be saying this is a great milestone, but this is something that happened to me personally. And people who have watched my videos before will know that I talk about this, and that one of the major reasons we've continued this Life Back project is because of Lucas, my son, and the empathy that I've seen that this program has taught him. And so April 8th is the day that I was driving back from Lucas's school, and Lucas looked out the window and saw a gentleman that was barely clothed with a sack on his shoulder, walking bare feet down a road. And Lucas said to me this day, he's like, Daddy, that guy needs a life bag. And this was the day in my truck I didn't have a life bag. We learned this day that wherever we go, life bags have got to be in our cars. I didn't have a life bag to give this guy, so we went home, I talked to my wife, When Lucas was asleep, we sent our team out to find out this guy, where he lived, what he did, how much in need he was, and what we found out is that he lived in a community of 1,000 people who had not had any work since the start of the pandemic. So the next day we took Lucas out of school, we went to Macro, our supplier. We bought 1,000 bags worth of supplies. We took it to my house. Lucas packed them all with our team and then went and delivered them all. And hopefully we have the photo there, but he's personally actually handing it out to every single villager. So I wanted him to feel that process of, he identified the need, he solved it, and then he personally delivered it. And that was one of the things where anyone asked me why the program continues, because there's no way I could have taught him that process and that part of empathy and process that people can get. There's no way I could have taught him that in school.
It's a life lesson.
It is.
And he'll got more out of that than a day in school, that's for sure. School's important, kids, but life lessons are more important. You told me that story when we first properly met, when we sat down and did my podcast, when you came on the Jailer Shark and Friends and Russell podcast, which you can find on any of your podcast providers. Is it okay to sneak that in?
Yeah.
I've done it now anyway.
Yes, it's done already. So that was 8th of April, and that's what gave me the energy to keep going until now. Because actually that one memory is enough for me to keep going for the next 10 years. Because I think that makes the entire process for me personally worth it. So then in May we continued with packing pods, and we have a milestone. UWCT was the first packing pod to pack over 2,000 life bags in a single packing session.
Well done, UWCT KYZQ.
Shout out to Heidi at UWCT and our student coordinators there. We have 2 student coordinators who fully involved. They have to receive the delivery, they have to plan the pack, they have to do everything. They're the Pete and Nina of UWC.
Well done, student coordinators.
And that pack was a prelude to the largest boat-based delivery that we ever did. We took that 2,500 bags, we put onto 5 five-star marine boats, and we delivered it out to the Koh Yao Yai, Nakayay, Koh Yao Noi, Coconut Island communities. And this was the largest single-day boat effort that we ever did up till that point. Until then, we're delivering, but we're using only a single boat, doing 500 bags at a time to the islands. But this one was a big goal, was we wanted to go and help every community in UW on Koh Yao Yai. And I remember standing on the pier that day, watching 5 boats come, about 40 or 50 volunteers packing off the boats into this stream of village chiefs driving their trucks. And we'd pack into their trucks and we'd go straight into the village. And I distinctly remember that day standing on that pier, feeling great pride in what we've been able to achieve in coordinating the entire island of people. And we're talking 13 village chiefs over there with 5 boats with 40 volunteers and straight out into delivery. That was a huge milestone for us to be able to do that.
And I think the important thing to note here is all the islands that 5-Star Marine do go to trips on, they rely on the tourism industry for money. And when there was no tourism for almost 2 years or so, they had nothing.
Well, one of the islands that I recommended you in one of our previous videos to go and try the somtam on is on Koh Yao Yai. And that particular restaurant was closed all of COVID. Now that some tourism's come back, they've reopened, but it looks like maybe if things don't improve, they're going to close again. But we felt it was important for us as a company to support the islands where we're taking people to.
Absolutely.
Because if we're not taking them anymore, then we have to do something to help them.
Sure.
So then next community milestone for us is May 5th, we started our community isolation program. This is where we were providing dry food supplies to villages that were in COVID care centres. So these were the jails that were converted.
I was going to say, what's a COVID care centre?
Yeah, so the governor put out an order to, in every district in Phuket, they had to create a COVID care centre. If you were positive, the hospitals didn't have enough hospital beds.
COVID positive, not just generally positive.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have to go to one of those things.
Not today, no.
So if you, essentially, if you were COVID positive, but you weren't a high risk case, you went to a COVID care centre. But unfortunately, the provincial governments didn't have enough funding to provide food. And also, they didn't have the infrastructure to do it. So you've got COVID care centres all over Phuket. You've got thousands of people in it. They don't have a centralised cooking solution. So we were delivering dry food supplies into there. The COVID care centres would then have people cooking supplies and they'd be feeding their COVID care centres. That was the start of our program then. May 20th BISP, have to shout out to them. They started to do packing pods.
It's the British International School, Phuket.
Correct. Then from there, 24th, then we started our relationship with the Phuket Red Cross and the provincial government. And that's when we combined together and we started to pool resources of who we knew on the island that needed help, because the provincial government had a register of about 20,000 people that needed help. We had our separate register from working with the village chiefs, and the Red Cross had their separate register for who they had. We all put it together and said, let's work together. Maybe we can't all feed everybody, but at least we know who's hungry and we can start to triage need. That was the start of that in May 24th. Then the 29th, we started to do hot meals again. A lot of people don't know that we did this. They thought we did only life bags.
I didn't know you did hot meals.
Yeah. So we cooked and delivered hot meals. We actually, for a while, we ran a COVID restaurant where we took over an empty restaurant, employed the chef, provided the food, and people could come and get free meals across the day.
I didn't know that, Shaun.
Yeah.
I've learned something today.
There you go. A lot of the stuff that we do, we don't talk about because we don't have time to talk about it, but these are milestones for us. So then June, we started to get case numbers go even bigger. Packing pods weren't available, so we moved all packing back to my home. And so that's when all the photos changed from this big Sutai gym to just my garage. We were packing. From there, then we started to talk about Sandbox opening. And everyone was starting to look at this being the savior to Phuket. So media started to come in, but the rules were not such in a way where Sandbox actually did too much, so we started to have to deal with packs, and that's when people outside of Phuket started to realise that what we were doing, and so we had people, we had the governor of Phang Nga and Krabi contacting us, asking us to provide support programs out there. So in June, we started to deliver life bags into Phang Nga by boat and car and truck, and we started to deliver life bags into Krabi by boat and car and truck. Maybe something you're not aware of either. Krabi, yes. 45 minutes by boat from here. And we set up relationships there with the governors and the sheriffs of those areas to do that. So we actually had cars, because we weren't allowed to cross the border, we had cars drive to the checkpoint at Saracen, and we'd offload from our car to someone else's car for them to then go and deliver into Phang Nga.
They don't make it easy, do they?
No, it's not easy, man. We even had passes, but we weren't allowed to pass. Everything was blocked at that point. Yeah. Then, here's the biggest milestone. Today, June 11th, we packed 5,000 life bags across 3 days.
That's a lot of life bags.
Yeah, and this was a project where we combined with the Phuket Red Cross, us, the government, the army, the navy, because a lot of our volunteers on this day were government volunteers helping us. And this was the first part of my dream coming together, where private joins with government, joins with NGOs, joins with foundations and businesses, and everybody just gets rid of their ego, gets rid of their whole concept of who is responsible for this pack, who is responsible for buying it, throws it all out and just says, let's work together to get this packed and get it into the community.
That's a huge one.
Yeah, and that was the first pack of this kind in Phuket, because before this we were all packing separately, and there was this concept that we would work together. But the idea and the ability just didn't work, you know, because everyone wanted credit. And anyone who knows me knows I don't care about credit, just cares about getting the food out. And so us leading allowed everyone to think about who cares about who's responsible for this. Everyone just give assets and let's work together. That was the first time, and that was 5,000 plus life bags. I think it was 5,583 life bags packed across 3 days. And big shout out to our volunteer team, because it wouldn't have been able to be done without the Phuket has been good to us volunteers, Donna and the team from the pavilions, who have been amazing in providing support and stuff to us.
DJ Tooney.
Then in July, what happens in July, Jay?
It's my brother's birthday.
It rains.
Oh, it rains.
We go to wet season. So this is when our team started to put on the hoodies and go delivering in the rain and packing in the rain. And we started to do what we call nighttime packs, because it was less likely to rain at nighttime. So our team started to pack at 7 p.m. and finish about midnight in the Sutai gym. So Amy and Nando would be sleeping while Zero and everybody's in there packing life bags. and we would do our deliveries early mornings or late night times to avoid the rain if we could. From there, milestones. Sorry, it's a long video. Keep going.
No, Shaun, it's important and it's good.
I like to document it, Jay. I think it's more a personal thing because I want to be able to look back and say what were the...
These are fabulous. I didn't know some of this stuff and I know you. Keep going.
So July 23rd, this is a big milestone for us because a lot of people actually didn't realise, Kunzira, who you've met a few times,
Lovely.
she had a dedicated phone where if people needed help that they could call her.
You said phone?
Yes.
Okay, just double checking.
And so by July, we had what we called a warehouse of packed life bags ready. So we evolved to a point where we weren't just packing and distributing, but we were packing and storing so that when need came, we had storage available to give. So this was the first day that she received a phone call at about 10 o'clock at night. She got on a motorbike, rode down to Sutai, packed about 25 life bags onto herself and her brother on motorbikes and drove to Phuket town to help people who were crying on the phone to her. And it's sort of a good milestone. Like, we don't want people to be in that desperate need that that's what we have to do, but we felt that we'd finally found a solution to dealing with the need of every level. And that was the big date for us. Then July 28th, we went from COVID care centres, and I don't know if you remember this, Jay, but the government started to order whole streets closed.
I remember.
And so that's when the government returned to us. So we had a meeting with the governor, and the governor said, if I'm going to order streets closed, we need to provide food for 14 days. I can't close the streets and keep the Sandbox open if someone is not willing to come in and give food. And so we created a relationship between us and the provincial government. He'd order a street closed. The exact same day, we would turn up with enough supplies for the entire street for 14 days. That was part of a community isolation program that we ran in conjunction with the Red Cross and the Phuket governor as well. Then case numbers go up. Sandbox doesn't affect too much. August, we have a dip in Sandbox numbers. July, we have a peak. August, we have a dip. Everyone who wanted to come back, because that initial peak was people returning to Phuket, expats, families, all that kind of stuff. And in August, we started to hit, and again, this is more a team milestone. I have some notes here around August where our team were hitting emotional exhaustion because the lines were so long and we didn't have enough supply to meet the needs. And so this was kind of for us where I think our team started to hit burnout. By August, Kunzira, the team, myself personally, all of us were kind of burning out. But what we started to see is the community come in behind us. So this is when Head Start reached out to us, another international school. Shout out to the Head Start team. Came in and they took over packing for, I think 3 packs they did for us.
And not just 3 packs, because that's not a lot. You mean 3 times?
3 times, yes. But the great thing was is that we were exhausted. We needed life bags. We needed the community to step in and pack. Head Start somehow called us and said, we want to pack. We have students, deliver the supplies. And that took the packing efforts away from us, took it away from Peter and Nina for a little while, took away from the volunteers, gave everyone a little bit of a break, and we could still continue to deliver. And this is when COVID hit really hard in some of the outer-lying islands. And you and I talked about this on a previous video. I'd just come back from Koh Lipe. We just did a holiday there. One of the reasons I wanted to go is I wanted to see the communities we were helping. And that's August 25th. One of my boat partners down in Koh Lipe, a friend of ours, not our boats, right? We rang a partner who we know and we said, can we borrow a boat to deliver a boatload of supplies out to Koh Lipe? He said yes. So we have these images, which hopefully come up now, of cranes and forklifts dropping supplies into a boat. The boat then going into the water and then off to Koh Lipe. We had to get special governor permission to go to Koh Lipe because everything was blocked. Nobody could go. We had to have health workers and doctors on our boats to make sure that we could get out there. And then when we got out there, our staff on the boat couldn't physically go onto the island. The health workers and doctors had to go and deliver it to the island. And then we had to get people who were on the island that we knew to then get it, pack it, and then deliver it to, because Koh Lipe is not just a single island, there's Koh Wadang, there's sea gypsies around there, so it was a whole coordinated process. That was kind of August 25th that we did that.
When did you feed the cats?
That was about the same time I was feeding cats at PP.
Shaun fed a lot of cats at PP.
So from there we move into September, where we move to our next biggest island-based delivery. There's about 3,500 bags in September that we delivered on a single day. Every boat in our fleet then was out delivering. Every staff member that we had was involved in the program. We had government giving us trucks because we couldn't move it. You know us, we do it our small trucks. They can take 350, 3,500 bags. You have to do 10 trucks here. But we also had a lot of the locals helping.
Yeah, the Suzuki Carry. It's the wrong name. It doesn't carry very much.
So then, next one, personal milestone. My birthday, we decided to pack life bags and deliver them on my birthday and the day after. That was my birthday present.
52.
How old am I now, Jay?
I don't know, mate. I don't know how old you are actually, Shaun. I think you look very young.
Thank you. 25? 30?
Move on.
35?
Move on.
40?
Come on.
You don't want to get your check, do you?
No, I don't.
Then, actually, this is something I didn't realize. October 13th, and I was looking at the imagery of October 13th, and as you watch it now in this video, you'll see we went into a COVID isolation village where the patients couldn't physically get out of bed, and we were delivering food, supplies, and hot food into this village. And this was one of the, I remember actually Kunzira coming home that night to my house in tears. And she's a strong lady, you know, and she's seen some stuff in the last 20 odd months. And I think we mark this down as being like the date where all of us just, I don't know, no words, man. It was a tough day, that day. And the imagery, re-looking at it just yesterday was like crazy. Then last milestone, Jay. October 27th.
I think there might be a couple more, Shaun. I'll add them in afterwards. But let's do this one.
October 27th, this is the start of Living Waters. So
you should explain what Living Waters is.
Yeah, so people have asked us, you asked me, actually it's relevant, you asked me on your podcast, you said, what's next after Life Bags?
You mean the Jailer Shark and Friends and Russell podcast, which you can find on your favourite podcast provider?
Yes, that podcast. You asked me,
what's next?
What's next?
I think it was Russell who actually asked you, because he's the intelligent one.
And I believe my answer to you is that there was no next, because we never planned to do this.
Sure.
But post your podcast, your podcast actually made me think about it, because I think you were the first person to actually ask me in a serious environment, what am I going to do next?
It was Russell then, it wasn't me.
Yeah. It was probably Russell. He's smart enough.
But I think I remember the question, and Russell did it, he's a good guy. He did say to you, what is next? And you was like, oh, that's it, once I'm going to take a step back, I'm not here for the long haul, I'm not here to, and it was funny because we've been trying to get Shaun on the podcast for a long time, and he was adamant, and I kind of knew, because I talked to you before, and I knew you weren't that keen on being on it, because you didn't want to be in the public eye, and I totally respected that. And then you started to do a few more interviews, so I grabbed you. But you were very much, no, we're going to feed, and once it all starts, I'm back doing boats.
That was it. That was the plan. And so what happened post that podcast was some thinking about, and I think I even had this conversation with you where I said, did I actually solve anything? By giving life bags and providing food to these people, did I solve any of the problems that got us to this point? And what I decided in this time was I didn't solve a single problem. Sure, I provided a bridge, but if the bridge just led them to another depressive land of no hope and no future and...
True, but it was a bridge over troubled water.
So that was when I decided this is not going to stop. But what it's going to do is evolve. When life bags were no longer needed, I wanted to look at solutions, like how do we educate people so that they get away from tourism? How do we provide programs and support to other great foundations out there who have been devastated because nobody was giving money to their cause because everybody was suffering? And so we come up with the concept of Living Waters, which is my family's foundation, my company's foundation. So we went from using our company and our personal resources to solve this problem to, okay, let's give the same amount of money, but give it to the foundation and tell the foundation with a board of advisors around it, this is what we want to solve. We want to solve this problem so that the next time a pandemic hits, not so many life bags are needed.
Sure.
That was Living Waters, and that was the day. And to launch Living Waters, we combined together with the Red Cross, the provincial government, we combined together with some other charities, and we did the single largest pack that has ever been done on Phuket. I think we ordered something like 44 tons of rice.
I'm sorry, 44 tons?
44 tons of rice.
It's a lot of rice.
So we had one day unloading trucks from rice, we had one day unloading trucks of mackerel, another day unloading other trucks, and we put all the supplies together, and we didn't do our standard life bag. Because we were hopeful that this was going to be the very last big push. You know, we're going to go and we're going to give a 30-day supply of food. That's what the life bag was. We called it a super life bag, with a 30-day supply of food, and we packed somewhere in between 8,500 and 9,000 life bags, and we spent somewhere north of $100,000 to do this pack. And then we got it all out in the community, and we were really hopeful that things would get better.
And they are, Shaun. Things are better.
They are.
They're getting better. But can I just say on this one, it's not only the life bags, but you also, it's not just about life bags, it's coming up with incentives and strategies to, like you said to me, it's not about just giving food. You give the guys wood and they can go and build boats, the fishermen who don't have a living anymore. It's about finding those things. And a bit like the project you took me to in the video that we did.
Yeah, so that's what Living Waters is all about. It's trying to get away from emergency food relief, which is not sustainable, right? We just can't keep giving money to buy rice. At some point, the money runs out. So now we have to look at a sustainable solution. How do we get them back into jobs? How do we maybe microfinance them back into a business, create entrepreneurs, create small businesses? Your idea, get people opening their own food carts, whatever it is that we can do to get them back into doing something that delivers income so they're not relying on food.
And just from a mental health point of view, which I have a few ideas about. Anyway, just giving someone food when they're lying there on their backside doing nothing, that's great, you're feeding them, but actually the mental health of not working, not being able to do anything. So it is about an incentive, such as getting them out there, growing plants, going in, selling those plants. Like I said, building a boat, then you can go and fish.
Well, some of the projects that Living Waters is looking at right now in large scale, right? We know a model in Fiji where a foundation went in and they bought a hotel and they renovated the hotel, and then they hired those class of people who have been told they're unemployable. You and I talked about this in our other video, where the older age, and I don't know the right way of saying it, but people who hotels don't want to hire but have a lot to give could maybe go into a non-profit hotel where we're not so fussed about our Hilton brand or our whatever brand we are.
Other brands are available, of course.
We don't worry about our brand. What we worry about is let's get the community back working, and the people who book with us understand that we're a community service hotel and therefore have less of a concept about let's push the 5-star service.
I think that's and it's similar to what you did with me, bringing me into 5-star.
What?
I don't know. I just thought I'd just put it out there that Shaun's looked after me very nicely as an older person as I am.
I'm not that old, Jay.
I know I'm not. I feel old today, Shaun. Anyway, you're doing a good job.
So is
that it?
That's the end of my milestone.
What happened to November and December?
Well, because
November I started working with 5-Star Marine.
But November and December is all Living Waters, and I want to make a clear delineation that...
A what? That's not a word. I'm dyslexic and that's not a word.
Delineation?
Delineation?
Delineation.
I just say I wanted to draw a line.
Yes, that's it.
Or I wanted to put a line in the sand.
I want to put a line in the sand that says...
On Maya Bay.
On October 27th, 5-Star Marine did its last official company-driven pack, handed everything over to Living Waters. Yes, 5-Star Marine funds Living Waters, but Living Waters is now its own growing entity. Not directed entirely by me. We have a board of advisors who direct where the money goes, and Peter and Nina, our wonderful volunteers who ran everything for us behind the operations of Living Waters, and that operates separate to me. And that was our entire goal, where you know what, at some point, and we say it on camera, 5-Star Marine cannot provide 100% of all the funding moving forward for our programs. We've funded Living Waters for the next 12 months, but the idea is Living Waters becomes an overarching foundation that raises and delivers funds to community projects, and hopefully, because of the work that I've done and my team have done over the last 20 months, that gives credibility to Living Waters, and Living Waters can be a living, breathing, operating foundation separated from 5-Star Marine. Now, I brought you here to ask the hard questions, and I don't know if you asked me any yet.
I don't think I need to ask you any hard questions. I think from my point of view, listen, there was a couple of jokes I wanted to say, for sure. Every time you're sending out liver, I mean, people don't like liver all the time. Some of them like chicken, some of them like fish. But I left those jokes, a bit like the model in Fiji. I left that joke out. I'm not here to make jokes, Shaun. I'm here to just support you. Joking aside, as I always do. I'm really impressed by what you do, and what your team do, and what Zero is continuing to do, and what all the other volunteers did. And I've seen, I'll be honest with you, I haven't done much life packing in my time. I did MC for 11 hours though. Just want to point that out straight. However, you've put so much effort into this, and to see it grow to where it is now, and to see where you were when we were chatting in August time, and the stress on your face, and you weren't looking healthy, and to see where you are now is brilliant. And to see, and you then took me down to do the life bags, and actually for me to physically see it as well was really interesting. I've been to a couple of other of the migrant workers camps, and it's an eye-opening experience, and it's not a good experience, and it's one that will stay in my brain forever. So what you've done, all those milestones are fantastic, and you and your team should be very proud. And I'm not here to take the limelight on anything.
Yeah, for us, it's not about that. I think, I wanted to clearly show people what it is that has been happening, and then I wanted to clearly document it so that in the future, my boy can go back and watch this video and know why Dad did what he did. And so I suppose for me, you being here was more about making sure that when I do document, I don't miss anything.
You missed loads.
And that it was clearly explained.
Well, it was, apart from some of the words I didn't really understand. That was all. But I think you did all right.
Thank you.
I've got online, I don't know what I'm looking, I've got no watch on. I look at your beautiful watch.
You got online learning?
I got online learning now.
All right, well, Jay's got to go back and be crew Jay.
Ooh, that means teacher in Thai.
But any of you guys got any questions about what we've been doing?
Comment below.
Sure do.
But please like and subscribe on this video. And good job, mate. I like the fact you did notes.
Yeah, I got prepared.
You did do really good.
That took me 2 days.
It didn't take you 2 days. You probably did it at 3 o'clock this morning.
No, literally, it's taken me 2 days.
It's taking you 2 days?
Because actually I had to go through all the photos and I wanted to check that everything was the right day.
Good for you, mate. Can I go now?
Yep.
Thanks.